Vâng, xin kính chào quý vị. Một tuần đã trôi qua và chúng ta lại gặp nhau. Tôi là Hoa Lê. Trong diễn đàn CEO tuần này, chúng tôi hân hạnh có sự tham gia của một vị khách mời đặc biệt. Nói là đặc biệt bởi vì ông là một vị khách nước ngoài nhưng đã làm việc và sống ở Việt Nam trong 23 năm qua. Vậy điều gì đã níu giữ chân của vị khách đặc biệt này? Đó có phải là những dự án kinh doanh của ông, hay là vì môi trường kinh doanh tại Việt Nam ngày càng tốt hơn, hay còn là điều gì khác nữa? Xin mời quý vị hãy làm quen với ông qua phóng sự sau.
Diễn đàn CEO tuần này có hân hạnh được gặp gỡ ông Preben Hjortlund, một người Đan Mạch đầy tài năng và thành đạt, đã gắn bó 23 năm cuộc đời mình với Việt Nam. Hiện nay, ông đang làm giám đốc điều hành tại tòa nhà HITC Hà Nội, trực thuộc tập đoàn Smith tại Việt Nam. Người đàn ông 57 tuổi này gánh trên vai rất nhiều nghĩa vụ như đại diện của Dennis Worldwide và là chủ tịch của Eurocharm, là nhà sáng lập và thành viên của diễn đàn ngành tư nhân tại Việt Nam. Ông cũng từng giữ vị trí phó chủ tịch của trường quốc tế Liên Hợp Quốc tại Hà Nội trong 4 năm. Trước khi là CEO của HITC, ông Preben còn là giám đốc của Tổ chức Phát triển Công nghiệp của Liên Hợp Quốc từ năm 1990 đến năm 1993. Đây cũng là lý do ông đến Việt Nam cách đây 23 năm. Đến năm 1994, tìm thấy nhiều cơ hội phát triển hơn cho bản thân cũng như cộng đồng, ông nhận lời trở thành giám đốc điều hành tại tập đoàn Smith, nắm giữ vị trí lãnh đạo công ty đại diện tại cả Việt Nam và Thái Lan và gắn bó với Việt Nam đến tận ngày nay. Trong 23 năm qua, ông đã liên tục cống hiến cho sự phát triển của cộng đồng doanh nghiệp Việt Nam cũng như châu Âu, trong đó có quê hương Đan Mạch của ông.
Preben là một người mà rất là yêu Đan Mạch và muốn rất là đóng góp cái công sức của mình cho cả một cộng đồng của châu Âu cũng như là Đan Mạch, và đồng thời cũng rất là yêu Việt Nam, bởi vì dù sao anh cũng sống đây hơn 20 năm, cho nên Việt Nam là một phần không thể tách rời. Vì thấy rõ ràng nhất là Preben đấy là một cái ý muốn, một cái ý chí là luôn luôn là làm cái gì tốt đẹp hơn cho cả hai đất nước.
Đến với HITC, chúng ta sẽ dễ dàng nhận thấy được dấu ấn của phương Tây qua phong cách phục vụ chu đáo, chuyên nghiệp và thân thiện, được pha trộn với sự chu đáo tận tình của người Á Đông. Ông Preben Hjortlund luôn đặt sự tôn trọng khách hàng lên hàng đầu. Chính vì thế, các dịch vụ mà ông cung cấp trong tòa nhà của mình luôn đem lại sự hài lòng cho khách hàng.
Có một cái khác biệt rõ ràng nhất khi mà lần đầu tiên tôi đến HITC thì tôi cảm giác ở đây là vô cùng chuyên nghiệp. Ngay khi bước vào trong cái sảnh chính là đã thấy là chuyên nghiệp rồi. Từ cách bài trí cho đến cái cách phục vụ của các nhân viên ngồi ở dưới. Thì sau khi đã thuê ở đây được một thời gian thì tôi rất là hài lòng về cái dịch vụ ở đây. Luôn luôn mình là cảm thấy mình được quan tâm và mỗi khi có nhu cầu gì đấy là luôn được đáp ứng nhanh nhất.
Trong bối cảnh hiện nay, rất nhiều doanh nghiệp đang gặp khó khăn. Nhiều công ty phá sản, ngừng kinh doanh, thu hẹp quy mô. Nhiều doanh nghiệp không đủ khả năng thuê văn phòng của HITC đã bày tỏ sự luyến tiếc khi ra đi.
Trong năm 2013, thì tình hình kinh doanh của công ty cũng như là mặt bằng chung thôi. Hiện nay là bất động sản đang xuống, vì vậy mà tình hình công ty cũng có bị ảnh hưởng rất nhiều. Theo như thế là năm nay là cũng có một vài khách hàng họ cũng vì là làm ăn khó khăn họ phải thu hẹp. Và tất nhiên là họ cũng phải chuyển sang những chỗ khác với những cái chi phí rẻ hơn. Chính vì vậy mà HITC của chúng tôi cũng gặp rất nhiều khó khăn. Tuy nhiên thì chúng tôi cũng rất chi là lạc quan, bởi vì là chúng tôi biết rằng là chúng tôi cũng là một trong những cái tòa nhà mà phục vụ khách hàng theo cái phong cách dịch vụ và chuẩn mực quốc tế tốt nhất. Vì vậy mà khi mà khách hàng ở lại thì họ cũng rất chi là hài lòng với chúng tôi, và kể cả những khách hàng đi họ cũng lại rất chi là luyến tiếc, và thậm chí là họ còn trước khi đi họ còn gửi những cái thư cảm ơn và chia sẻ cảm xúc của họ là họ hài lòng như thế nào ở với chúng tôi. Và cái đấy trong một trường mực nào đó thì tôi nghĩ rằng là cái việc mà khách hàng đi như thế cũng là một cái cơ hội tốt, bởi vì họ sẽ truyền tải tất cả những dịch vụ mà chúng tôi có ở tòa nhà này đến các nơi khác.
Đây cũng chính là thách thức mà HITC phải đối mặt. Tuy nhiên, với tài năng lãnh đạo của mình, ông Preben đã tạo dựng được niềm tin cho các nhân viên, lấy khó khăn làm động lực để phát triển công ty. Sự tôn trọng cũng là điều mà ông luôn dành cho các nhân viên của mình. Chính vì thế mà hơn 300 nhân viên của ông tại Việt Nam và Thái Lan đều dành cho ông những tình cảm tốt đẹp nhất và luôn sẵn sàng gắn bó lâu dài với công ty.
Cách thức quản lý tòa nhà của ông Preben là theo cách thức quản lý của phương Tây. Cách thức của họ có nghĩa là họ luôn luôn đặt vấn đề con người lên làm hàng đầu. Họ trao toàn quyền cho tất cả các trưởng phòng trong công ty. Các trưởng phòng hoàn toàn có quyền được lựa chọn cách thức làm thế nào tốt nhất để quản lý nhân viên và phục vụ khách hàng. Ta rất tôn trọng ý kiến của mình. Người ta không đưa ra ý kiến là các anh các chị phải làm theo ý của tôi, mà bao giờ cũng là hỏi chúng tôi xem chúng tôi có ý kiến như thế nào. Các sếp là rất quan tâm đến con người. Vì vậy mà ở HITC, một trong những lý do mà nhân viên ở đây làm việc rất lâu năm, phải nói là đến 2/3 nhân viên là làm trên 5 năm.
Đối với ông Preben, thách thức lớn nhất khi điều hành một công ty tại Việt Nam là vấn đề pháp lý, sự phức tạp trong các thủ tục hành chính, cũng như văn hóa phương Đông. Nhưng với đội ngũ nhân viên của mình, ông đã nhanh chóng khắc phục được những khó khăn này và thành công tại Hà Nội. Mời quý vị cùng đến với phần trao đổi giữa VITV và ông Preben Hjortlund để hiểu thêm về những kinh nghiệm lãnh đạo của ông tại Việt Nam trong 23 năm qua.
So, Mr. Preben Hjortlund, welcome you to talk to CEO on VITV channel.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me.
So we've seen that Mr. Preben Hjortlund has held many important positions, such as regional directors and specialists for the UN's projects and programs, president of the European Chamber of Commerce, and CEO of Handel International Technology Center, or HITC. Well, a lot of jobs. So, Preben, what are your outstanding experience working these jobs?
Well, obviously, being here for 23 years, over the years, of course, you have a little bit of experience what's going on in Vietnam. But it's correct, 23 years ago, actually it's 25 years ago, I came first time to Vietnam as part of an industrial assessment study when I worked in Bangkok for UNIDO, at that time for UN's Industrial Developing Organization. And then I came back 23 years ago to take up my position first as the deputy country director, and later on I became the acting country director for UNIDO's activities here in Vietnam. That was a very interesting time in 1990. That was a very interesting time for Vietnam. Right. The whole society looked very different at that time, but of course for UN it was a golden opportunity. Vietnam had just pulled away from the former Soviet Union and the whole Comecon, and was in a situation where they really need to open up the Vietnamese economy to the world, and UN being here, and UN being one of the few organizations being here at that time, of course, many of the activities we had was to help the Vietnamese government to open up and be aware of the situation, be aware of how things was working out in the free world.
So at first you were working as a specialist for the UN or UNIDO in Vietnam. So what is the most meaningful positions that you have taken care as a mission to contribute to our development?
One of the things the achievement, I would say, at that from the early days I was here was probably we were the one who organized the first investment forum in Ho Chi Minh back in March '91, which of course in a way was the one which really opened up Vietnam to the outside world, made the outside world know that Vietnam was also a potential country for foreign investment. And that of course was a tremendous boost to the whole Vietnamese economy at that time, and really an eye-opener for the outside world and for the Vietnamese, that foreign investment could be an important part of the development. Any of the positions I had here in Vietnam, of course, have been meaningful in the sense that we are here to develop the Vietnamese society. First, I worked for UN, and that was, of course, to give aid to Vietnam. But the last 20 years, when I worked for a Smith Group of Companies, which is a trading house, where one of the positions I have is the general manager or general director of HITC. And so at that time we worked a lot with Ministry of Science, Technology, Environment, and of course SCCI and MPI at that time, or Ministry of Planning and Investment later on, to help to set all the guidelines for how high-tech investment could be developed in Vietnam. We actually did the same. We also was very supportive to help setting up all the standards and the policy for the HITC park in Ho Chi Minh City. So of course that position was also very important, and of course later on in first as founder and chairman of the Nordic Chamber, and later on the European Chamber, where I'm now again the chairman. Of course, it's also quite important as a spokesman for all the European investment in Vietnam. So to say one would be more important than the other, that's not the way it works. Even though you are here for private sector, we can only develop our company here if Vietnam develops. So of course, even though we are here to secure that our company is run well and make a profit, but being here without also considering the society where we are, of course, doesn't work. And that's why you see many, both Vietnamese private sector, but also foreign private sector, of course, we are very much involved in the society where we are, and are helping the Vietnamese to get developed and have a better life.
I think that in the context of Vietnamese and European partners are going to sign an agreement, a free trade agreement. So that I think that as the chairman of the Eurocham, it will contribute in the process of fulfilling the agreement, fulfilling the missions.
Absolutely, yeah. So yeah, obviously Eurocham, we have it's a very strong organization. We have 850 members in Vietnam, in a wide variety of industries. One of the things we are doing is we are having 13 sector committees in all activities. We have a pharmaceutical sector committee, we have automotive sector committee, we have a wine and spirits sector committee, we have a human resource sector committee, and these sector committee are working almost not daily, but at least daily. We have meetings with the Vietnamese authorities for the sector committees, where we are discussing issues of mutual interest between the government and our members. We are raising issues and questions. Very often the government is also asking advice from us. How do you feel we should do this? We understand you are a little bit concerned about some of the policies we have in Vietnam. Do you have any ideas how we could do it better? And of course, we are always willing and help. So we have almost daily meetings with the authorities in different sectors. Once a year we are launching our the White Book, which comes out beginning of December also this year, and actually this year mid-November, sorry. But that's again that's really a presentation of all the negotiation, all the issues we are discussing with your government, and then we follow up with of course the Eurocham. The executive board are following up on the highest level with the ministers and vice ministers, and on lower level with the experts from different ministries to really have an interaction and discussion on how we can further improve. In the White Book, we normally take up 3-5 issues which we feel is of greatest concern to our members this year, but don't only come up with the concern from our side, we also come with solutions. Where we tell your government we feel that to consider this issue in a context of ASEAN, where Vietnam is a member of the ASEAN. We have 5 issues this year. We know we cannot do it all in one time, so why don't you we stratify it and say, okay, we feel that this issue are probably the most important. Let's do that first, and then we work our way through the list, and hopefully by the end of the year we have gone through the issues we have and often the government may have, and then next year we take up new issues. We do on behalf of our members to secure that not only our members in Vietnam today, but of course also potential European companies who are willing and interested to come to Vietnam. Of course, we also meet them and discuss with them what are the issues, what are the obstacles, and how can we help you to secure that you can get a good start with your business in Vietnam.
So as a foreign investor, what pros and cons have you faced working here and as an international donor?
Well, as a donor, I haven't been involved in that for many years, so let's ask the donor community to answer that question. But from an international investor point of view, of course, there's a lot of pros and cons. The pro, obviously, is that Vietnam is a fabulous country with a lot of opportunities. We have 90 million people, and of course the market is huge. We have a big crowd of young, talented people who are willing to work for foreign companies and to help foreign companies to develop their business here. So of course this is something of the very positive sign. Vietnam is located relatively central within the ASEAN community. And with the new agreement falling in place in 2015, when you are operating in Vietnam, you don't operate just for 90 million people, but for the whole ASEAN, and even ASEAN plus. You have ASEAN plus 1, you have ASEAN plus 2 and 3. So we talk about the connection with China, with Korea, with Japan, with India, and of course also with Europe. So. Vietnam, we feel from European point of view, Vietnam is well located and well structured to take up this challenge of being the gateway to the whole ASEAN continent. I mean, but everything is absolutely, of course, not wonderful. Nothing can be wonderful all the time, and of course we are facing many. Some will call them problems. I would call them challenges. There's many challenges when you operate in a country like Vietnam. Yeah. The challenge is that the legal structure are still not very defined. So of course there's many issues which is up for discussion. Some of the whole government structure are not very well in place and maybe not always as professional as we would like to see, both in the bigger cities and when we come out in the provinces. So there's a lot of issues which need to be discussed and improved, and we often see that the way the Hanoi People's Committee would look at a law compared to Hai Sung People's Committee, compared to when we come down to Central Vietnam or South Vietnam are very different, which of course will confuse some of our members which are operating in many areas of Vietnam. So these are some of the things we are always pointing out to the government, and we know the government would like to see better, but of course it's a challenge for everybody. I mean, issues like one small issues like the new labor law, of course, is a big issue for us because we find it very unclear and not very helpful for us operating here in Vietnam. Issues like corruption, of course, is a very big issue, which are confusing the whole picture and make it very difficult for many of our members to operate in Vietnam. And then, of course, we also have an issue with the state enterprises where we feel that they are not operating in a sound commercial basis. They are generating too many problems. We are very concerned about. We raised it in our white book 2 weeks ago. We raised it in the Vietnam Private Sector Forum, Vietnam Business Forum, and of course we were very pleased to see that the government, Vice Prime Minister Hai, and a few days later also your Prime Minister now have clearly indicated that 600 of the 1,200 state enterprises will be reformed, will be reorganized into a more commercial terms over the next 2 years, and we really are very hopeful that could change the picture and make things better for us and make it clear for our members how to operate here.
Yeah, I hope that things will be improved for international investor here. But I think that after more than 20 years working here, and you have very good operations and companies, so I think that there are more pros, more advantages than disadvantages.
Obviously, For me, personally, being here for 23 years, if I should talk a little bit about that and not only about Eurochamp, in our own case, we have many of our managers have been with us since we started 20 years ago, and of course that is very touching and makes our heart warm when we hear that. And of course, when I just been to Hong Kong for our board meeting, and when I can tell the board of directors and our owners that we still have such a big amount of people being with us for so long, probably 50-60% have been with us for more than 50 years, 15 years in our company. Of course, that only shows that not only shows that we probably do the right thing, but also that we have been able to develop our company into something which are very useful for, and something which I appreciate by our staff, and of course by then appreciated by our staff, also appreciated by the customers we have for our company here.
So what do you find the biggest changes in our country after many years working here?
When I came 23 years ago, I have to say there was not a lot of colors. I mean, let's talk about Hanoi, where I live. I mean, Vietnam is huge, and Vietnam is very diversified and look very different. But if you talk about Hanoi, Hanoi was a very dark city with very limited colors, and if something have changed, it's definitely the colors. I mean, now.
What do you mean by color?
I mean, the clothes people are wearing are more colorful now. The houses have been painted. There's flowers. The shops look more modern, and so.
These are kind of physical changes.
That's kind of the physical changes.
Yeah.
Obviously, the young generation. I mean, 23 years. That means. In those 23 years I've been in Vietnam, almost 50% of the Vietnamese population have been born while I've been here, and it's very encouraging to see that the young generation are much more open in the way they do things. They're much more interested in what's going on around them and what's going on around the world, and that of course very encouraging. They do their utmost to educate themselves better. So these are some of the very positive things that it's obvious that for most Vietnamese, life is easier and life is better. But there's still a big group of the Vietnamese people, Vietnamese society, which have not really feel the latest development. I mean, you don't need to get too far out of Hanoi to go back to the old traditional, where people are still living from day to day, and of course if you go a little bit further out, you still have people which are hunger is not really a big issue, but of course malnutrition is definitely still a big issue. So there's still a lot to be done to secure that the whole Vietnamese society can now get out of this poverty trap, as people would call it, and secure that things will develop in a better way for the whole society, and not only for the few people in the big cities like Hanoi, Da Nang, and Ho Chi Minh.
Ngay từ những ngày đầu làm việc tại Liên Hợp Quốc ở Việt Nam, người đàn ông Đan Mạch này đã đem lòng yêu một người phụ nữ Việt Nam và lấy bà làm vợ. Hiện nay, họ có 3 người con đang học tập và làm việc tại Đan Mạch. Có lẽ người phụ nữ này cũng chính là lý do ông gắn bó với Việt Nam suốt thời gian qua. Bà Phạm Mai Hiền, một người phụ nữ mạnh mẽ, đầy cá tính, đã chinh phục ông ngay từ cái nhìn đầu tiên, và cho đến nay, tình cảm của hai vợ chồng vẫn tốt đẹp như những ngày đầu. Bà Phạm Mai Hiền chia sẻ, điều mà bà yêu nhất ở ông là sự vị tha, tính phóng khoáng. Trong suốt 23 năm tại Việt Nam, yêu và lấy người phụ nữ này, ông đã chăm sóc bà và người con trai riêng của bà như chính con ruột của mình, thậm chí còn có phần quan tâm hơn 2 người con gái ruột.
Cái mà tôi thích nhất ở Preben đấy là tính hào phóng. Với tư cách là một người đàn ông, hào phóng không phải chỉ về tiền mà hào phóng trong mọi thứ, trong mọi cái, rất là vị tha. không có cái đòi hỏi mọi người phải trao lại cho mình cái gì, mà mình làm hết lòng của người khác.
Yêu và lấy một người châu Á với văn hóa, tín ngưỡng khác nhau không phải là điều dễ dàng. Ông Preben chia sẻ, họ mâu thuẫn rất nhiều, thậm chí là thường xuyên, nhưng không vì thế mà tình yêu ông bà dành cho nhau giảm sút, mà họ còn hiểu nhau hơn, gắn bó với nhau hơn. Còn lại bí quyết chính là sự tôn trọng lẫn nhau, chia sẻ mọi chuyện. Cũng có thể, chính vì những khác biệt giữa phương Đông và phương Tây đã bù đắp và hoàn thiện tình yêu của hai vợ chồng.
Nói chung là có tôn trọng lẫn nhau. Tại vì có một lần tôi nhớ là mời những các anh mà cũng làm ở trong chính phủ ấy, đến ăn cơm, hồi đấy tôi ở villa ở Gia Lâm, thì là mình nghĩ cũng bình thường thôi, đến khi mà tôi vẫn ngồi nói chuyện với các anh ấy, hồi đấy là anh Hoàng, anh Phúc vẫn ngồi nói chuyện, thì Preben đứng dậy vào bếp pha cà phê và pha chè để bưng ra, xong rồi ăn xong lại dọn hết các thứ đồ vào bếp, còn tôi vẫn ngồi nói chuyện, tại vì tôi nói chuyện tiếng Việt mà, đâm ra tôi mải mê nói chuyện, thì là Preben làm cái việc đấy. Thì tôi nghĩ cũng rất là bình thường, nhưng sau đó mọi người kể nói là mọi người rất là ấn tượng tại sao Preben đi làm cái việc đấy. Thì tôi nghĩ là phần lớn những người đàn ông ngoại quốc ấy, châu Âu hay gì đấy, phương Tây, thì họ cho coi đấy rất là bình thường, không phải riêng mình Preben, mà tôi nghĩ là 90% là như thế, và tôi nghĩ cái đấy là do giáo dục.
Có thể nói, ông Preben chính là người đàn ông của gia đình. Có thể nhiều người Việt Nam sẽ bất ngờ khi thấy một lãnh đạo công ty, một người được xã hội kính trọng, lại có thể đi rửa bát, nấu ăn cho vợ, chăm sóc con cái. Nhưng điều này dường như không làm giảm giá trị người đàn ông trong ông Preben, mà thậm chí ông còn được mọi người yêu mến nhiều hơn.
I've known that you, a Danish man, has spent 23 years working and living here. It is a long time, isn't it? So Preben, before leaving your country, had you ever thought that you will leave it for such a long time?
No, actually not. Actually not. That was it's something came. It actually basically everything started. almost 30 years ago when I as a young student I had an internship in Sri Lanka. I was there for 6 months and was of course very fascinated by this whole new atmosphere, a whole new society. In Sri Lanka was a Buddhist society, and of course the whole lifestyle was very much around that. So when after I came back to Denmark, finalized my education and had to work in a Ministry of Defense at that time back in Denmark, I always had this desire to maybe one day, if the opportunity would come, to get back to the Far East, back to Southeast Asia, to see more about what was going on. Of course, 26 years ago was also the time where Southeast Asia really started to open up and became a talk of the town all over the world. And I felt as a young man that was probably the place for me to be, at least to be part of that for a period of time. But that it should be the rest of my life, that of course I had no idea about that time.
Yeah, okay. So, where's the motivation that you to go to Vietnam?
The motivation was first I took up a post with UNIDO, United Nations in Bangkok, a regional project where I traveled around in many Asian countries, and like I just mentioned before, I came back here first time in '88 to be part of a team to make an industrial assessment study of Vietnam. And then again back in '89, and became very fascinated by Vietnam and the Vietnamese people. Things here were so different from what I have seen in many other Asian countries, China, Philippines, Malaysia, Indonesia, wherever I went. Very different also from Thailand, where I lived in Bangkok. So when the chance came up that there was possibility to take a position here more permanently from November 1990, I had no hesitation and to take that position, and I came on the 12th of November and basically been here since. So that was suddenly that was a game changer for me and the life I was supposed to have.
So your motivation is not a Vietnamese girl, right?
At that time, there was no Vietnamese girl. I had I had met a lot of Vietnamese people, but of course didn't have really a chance to get really close to somebody. I mean, for those of the viewers here who are old enough to remember what actually happened 28 years ago, you also could remember that actually to get close to the Vietnamese people was still not something which were very easy. It was actually close to be forbidden for the Vietnamese to actually get closer to foreigners. So all these things only open up and became more liberal later on. So really to know some Vietnamese only started when I went back in November 2000 and started to work here on a permanent and live here on a permanent basis.
Okay, it's just joking. But my question is that I've known that you have a Vietnamese wife. So please share with us your chance.
Well, that was in a way very simple, because the first day I came to work, there were one of my colleague was Vietnamese. Of course, all my colleagues was basically Vietnamese, but one of them her name was Diễn, and she worked in the UNIDO office, and I met her the first morning I came to work, and well, then it took 4 or 5 years before we actually got married, but of course I can say that I have known her from the first day I more or less came to Vietnam to live here.
Okay, so kind of a love at first sight?
That was probably more love from my side than from her side.
Okay.
So it took a little bit of time. At that time, my wife was into a little bit of a sad situation. Her first husband had just been killed in a Vietnam Airlines accident, which took place in September '88 in Bangkok, and she was left alone as a widower with a unborn boy, which came on only a few months later. 19th of December, Min was born, and she was a lonely mother with a small boy. So actually, her life was not so happy and joyful. But I mean, she did a good job at UNIDO, and eventually she obviously found out that there maybe could be a chance for us to be together and stay together. So, but it wasn't from day one from her side, that's for sure.
Okay, happy for you. And when taking many positions, so how can you arrange things to spend time for your family?
Well, that's all obviously not always easy, because I mean, having a job like in a regional company like I work for Smith, obviously there's a lot of traveling, not only inside Vietnam, but while I was here, there was also a time I looked after our operations in Thailand, and for 4 years, more or less, I went to Thailand every week for 2 or 3 days every week. So of course that takes its toll on your family life. But the main thing is, first of all, you have to have a good understanding from your wife and your family that this is part of your job, and you have to secure that they are in a good conditions when you are gone, good and safe conditions when you are gone, and then at the end probably also try to be more close when you are home. I mean, I think in the terminology about that is quality time. I mean, but try to have quality time when you are together with the family, and when the children were smaller, I always try to make an effort whenever there was something happening at the school, whenever something was happening for them, at least be as much as possible, try to be there for them and to be part of some of the activities they had in school later on. But if you ask, have I been a perfect father? Probably not from that point of view. Absolutely not.
You have 3 children, right?
That's correct, yeah.
And I know that most of the time your children spend in Denmark, your fatherland. How can you how to say, help them to maintain the Vietnamese traditional lifestyle when they have to get apart from Vietnam?
Yeah, that. First of all, they were all the three of them were born and raised in Vietnam. So of course, the Vietnamese language, the Vietnamese lifestyle, the Vietnamese tradition. Of course, they got with our mother milk. They live in the middle of. We lived in the middle of Hanoi. So of course, all these traditions and Vietnamese habits. Of course, they knew from their childhood and as they grew up. It's correct that my son, our son now, who have been in Denmark for some time, and the girls for the last 2-3 years of their school, they're also in Denmark. Whenever there's something happening in Vietnam, obviously they are still part of it. Whenever we are in Denmark and spend time with them, my wife secure they always get what they want, and that of course Vietnamese food. That's what they miss the most. We bring Vietnamese fruit for them, and that's the food whatever we can bring, and of course then they come on holiday on a regular basis to Vietnam to maintain contact with their Vietnamese friends and the family, the grandmother and the grandfather and things like that. So all these things, but obviously there is a difference being in Denmark, being a Vietnamese in Denmark, or then like for me, I mean I'm a Dane and I love Denmark and love the traditions in Denmark, but lived 23 years in Vietnam. But maybe sometimes when you are away from where you come from, you realize it more. Because if you're in the middle of it, who cares? I mean, yes, we know now in our case all the traditions relating to Christmas, but of course in Denmark everybody's doing it every year without really thinking about it, and you have to do it. Right. Of course, for me and many other Danes who live overseas, I mean, there's something we are missing, and love to and look forward to come back and see and try, and in a way I feel it's maybe a little bit the same for our children, because they are away from it, they think more about it, they miss it, and as such when they then get it, they are very happy about it. So I'm not that afraid that they are totally losing out on the Vietnamese language. They speak still perfectly Vietnamese, understand Vietnamese, and the traditions, whatever can be done. Copenhagen and Denmark have many Vietnamese restaurants and places to go and eat, so there is still a good chance for them to keep up with some of the good traditions and they have.
Okay. So, Preben, is this very difficult for you not to speak Vietnamese here?
Sometimes it obviously can be difficult. I mean, sometimes if you're out in public places and people are talking, maybe sometimes it's probably maybe good. I don't understand Vietnamese too much to hear what's being said and done around me and what's being done. But yes. But I have to say that in most cases, I can say at least I survived 23 years having a good wife, good family, and good people around me all the time, and I probably also understand. I tend to believe I understand a lot about what's going on in Vietnam. But yes, it's correct that I don't understand every small detail in the language, But I still believe that I managed to also provide a little bit of goodwill and provide a little bit of understanding to the Vietnamese society, even without being able to 100% explain it in Vietnamese.
Okay. So, Preben, to recall your time here in Vietnam, so what will you miss the most when, for example, suddenly you have to leave Vietnam?
Well, what I will miss the most is probably, I mean, the food. I mean, the Vietnamese food is very nice. That's and of course the beauty. I mean, the geography of Vietnam is unbelievable. I mean, the mountains, the sea, the lakes, the lagunas. I mean, Vietnam is very, very beautiful. Very, very beautiful. Sometimes I wish that the Vietnamese people and the Vietnam authority could do a better job really to promote the beauty of Vietnam. So this would obviously be some. I will of course miss my Vietnamese friends after 23 years. I mean, I say most of my very best friends are of course Vietnamese, because the foreigners tend to come and leave again. Not many stay behind like I have done for so many years. So of course I will miss my friends like I do like I miss my friends in Denmark. But on the other hand, nowadays communication is so easy that even if by whatever reason I would have to move away from Vietnam, it's so easy to come here all the time, and for sure my children will force me to bring them back here on a very regular basis. So it's not that I would leave Vietnam and never come back and never be seen again here. On the contrary.
So how often do you go to Denmark with your family?
5 to 6 times a year. The children are there, and we have to go there on a regular basis whenever they have holidays, birthdays, and things like that. So both my wife and I actually go on quite a regular basis to Denmark to spend time with them. Again, to be the good father and the good mother which we still are supposed to be, even though they live far away from us.
So have your Danish friends and family go to Vietnam to travel?
Oh yeah, many of them have been here, come several times to visit us in Vietnam. I'm always very impressed and very amazed, and feel that I must be the luckiest man in the world living in a place and a society like this. Obviously, they are when they come and see even the worst traffic jam in Vietnam, they think it's fun to see, and of course also maybe they realize that what's fun for them is maybe not so fun for us being here on a daily basis. But yes, a lot of them like to have been here, like to come here, and have been here several times.
So hope that you, as a BRICS, will continue to promote the Vietnamese image to the international friends, to have to build up our tourism.
That's what we have done for 23 years, and we'll continue that effort every day. Every day we do that.
Okay. So it's the end of our program. Preben, it is coming close. So can you say something in Vietnamese to our audiences?
Obviously, I better say chúc mừng năm mới. I wish all my Vietnamese friends, your family, and the people in the studio here, all the best. And I really hope that TED this year will be as good as we remember it. But hopefully the time after the TED will be even better. We had a little bit of a few rough years here in Vietnam. The economy was not always the way we like to see it, and we really hope that the next year will be the year where things start to change, maybe not rapidly, but at least change to the better, and prepare for the good years to come in 15, 16 again.
Thank you, Preben, and I wish you have a very, very good year ahead, and you have a very happy time together with your family in Denmark on the year-end vacation.
Thank you very much for having me here today, and I hope this could not be the last time we can have a good discussion like this.
Vâng, thưa quý vị, chúng ta vừa lắng nghe những chia sẻ hết sức thú vị của một vị khách nước ngoài đã dành 1/4 thế kỷ, đã dành gần 1/4 thế kỷ để sống và làm việc tại đây, để cống hiến và đóng góp vào sự phát triển của Việt Nam. Chúng ta hy vọng rằng là sẽ còn có nhiều vị khách mời thú vị như vậy xuất hiện trong diễn đàn CEO. Hãy đồng hành cùng chúng tôi. Còn bây giờ, xin kính chào và hẹn gặp lại.